What if I told you that being broke isn't always about how much money you earn, but about how you handle the money that flows through your hands? Think about it. Why are so many people stuck in debt, paycheck to paycheck, while a few seem to build wealth even in the hardest situations? It's not magic, and it's not luck. It's principles. Over 100 years ago, a little book called The Richest Man in Babylon revealed secrets so timeless, they still work, whether you live in a booming city or in the middle of a third world country. And the crazy part? These principles are simple enough to apply right now, starting with the next peso or dollar that comes into your hand. The question is, are you willing to shift your mindset from surviving to truly building? Because the truth is, wealth is not about the amount, it's about the habits. And if you grasp this, you can rise above 99% of people stuck in financial struggle. Imagine this. You're living paycheck to paycheck. Your bills are piling up, and every peso or dollar you earn feels like it's already gone before it even touches your pocket. That's the reality for many people. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't try hard enough, but because they've been trained by society to pay everyone else first. The landlord, the bills, the debt collectors, the expenses. By the time it's your turn, nothing's left. And here's the painful truth. When you live this way, you're always a servant to money, never its master. That's why the first principle from The Richest Man in Babylon is so powerful. Pay yourself first. The book says, start thy purse to fattening. It sounds simple, almost too simple. Save at least 10% of your income before you spend a cent on anything else. But behind that simple rule lies the foundation of financial freedom. Because when you set aside even a small portion of what you earn, you're training your mind and spirit to shift from scarcity to ownership. Let me make this real. Picture a farmer who harvests rice. If he eats all his harvest or sells everything just to meet today's need, what happens tomorrow? He has no seeds left. But if he keeps a portion aside as seed for the next planting, he ensures a future harvest. That's the same with money. When you pay yourself first, you're not just saving, you're planting seeds for your future. And I know what you might be thinking, but I don't even have enough to survive right now. How can I save? That's the trap. If you wait until you have more money before you start saving, you'll never save. Because your lifestyle always expands to match your income. Someone earning $10,000 says they can't save. Then they earn $50,000 and still say they can't save because their expenses grew with them. Saving is not about the amount, it's about the habit. Even if it's just 100 from 1,000, that act builds a new mindset, ownership. When I was struggling financially, I used to believe that every cent I earned needed to go toward survival. Bills, food, debts, it all consumed me. But when I discovered this principle, I forced myself to set aside 10% even when it hurt. At first, it felt impossible. But something shifted. That little portion, though small, started giving me a sense of control. It wasn't about the money itself. It was about the awareness that I had something growing, something that belonged to me. Over time, that discipline created options. Options create freedom, and freedom creates wealth. Here's the interesting part. This principle isn't just in Babylonian parables. It's deeply biblical. Proverbs 21:20 says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." God's wisdom has always been about stewardship, keeping something aside, managing well what you've been given. Joseph in Egypt stored grain during years of plenty. So when famine came, not only did Egypt survive, but nations came to them for help. The same principle applies to your finances. When you store and grow what you have, you'll not only survive the hard times, you'll have enough to bless others. And science even backs this up. Psychologists say saving builds a sense of future orientation. It rewires your brain from being stuck in instant gratification to thinking long-term. It's like building muscle. Every time you save, you strengthen your discipline muscle. Over time, it becomes natural. Just like someone who works out doesn't get stronger overnight, saving consistently builds unseen strength that pays off big later. The Babylonian parable says, "For every 10 coins you earn, keep one for yourself." Think about that. If you do this for 1 year, you will have 1 month's income set aside. In 5 years, you'll have half a year's worth. In 10 years, you'll have a full year's income in reserve, even without investing. And that's just the beginning, because once your purse is fattened, you can then use that money to invest and multiply. But it all starts with this first step, paying yourself first. So here's the challenge. Test it. Take the next income you get, whether it's salary, business, or even a side hustle, and immediately set aside 10%. Don't touch it. Don't think of it as optional. It's non-negotiable. Watch how it changes your relationship with money. Watch how your mind begins to open up to new opportunities, because now you're not just surviving, you're building. Remember, wealth doesn't start when you earn a lot. Wealth starts when you keep a portion of what you already earn. That's why poor and rich alike can apply this principle. It's not about luck. It's not about economy. It's about discipline. Pay yourself first, and you begin to write a new financial story. Now, once you've learned to pay yourself first, there's another principle from the richest man in Babylon that becomes just as crucial. Live below your means. The old Babylonian phrase is, control thy expenditures. This one hits home because so many people think their problem is lack of income, when really the problem is lack of control. Think about it. How many times have you heard someone say, if I could just earn more money, I'd be fine? Then they get a raise, or their business grows, and yet months later they're still broke. Why? Because their desires always outpace their income. They confused wants with needs, and what should have been progress became a deeper trap. The book reminds us of a sobering truth. Wealth doesn't come from high income. It comes from managing spending. If you make 100 and spend 100, you're broke. If you make 1,000 and spend 1,000, you're still broke. It doesn't matter if you earn in pesos, dollars, or gold coins. The math is the same. Control is the key. Let me give you a picture. Imagine someone pouring water into a jar that has holes at the bottom. No matter how much water you pour, the jar never fills. That's how uncontrolled spending works. People think more income will solve their problem, but unless you patch the holes, the jar stays empty. Living below your means is patching those holes so that what you earn can actually accumulate. And here's the painful part. Modern society makes this hard. Everywhere you look, there are ads, influencers, and social media showing you what you should have. The latest phone, the trendiest clothes, the nicest vacations. Without realizing it, you start measuring your needs against someone else's highlight reel. That's why so many drown in debt. Not because of survival, but because of comparison. But let me shift this deeper. Controlling expenditures isn't about living in misery or depriving yourself. It's about creating margin. When you budget wisely, you're not limiting your freedom, you're protecting it. Debt chains you, but margin frees you. That margin becomes your safety net in tough times, your opportunity fund when chances come, and your peace of mind at night. I had a season where I earned more than I ever did before, but I was broke at the end of every month. Why? Because I upgraded everything, my rent, my gadgets, my lifestyle. It felt like progress, but it was slavery with nicer packaging. It wasn't until I got honest with myself, cutting expenses, budgeting with discipline, that I actually felt free. Because freedom isn't about what you spend, it's about what you keep. This principle is echoed in the Bible too. Proverbs 13:7 says, One person pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. It's not about appearances, it's about substance. The world celebrates people who look rich, but true wealth is quiet. It's having control, not flaunting consumption. Even science explains this. Psychologists talk about the hedonic treadmill. It means once you satisfy a desire, your brain quickly adapts, and soon you crave more. Buy a new car, and it feels amazing until your neighbor drives something newer. Get a new phone, and it feels incredible until the next model comes out. If you live based on this treadmill, you'll always be running but never arriving. The only way off that treadmill is contentment and discipline. Here's the practical side. Track your spending. Write it down. Budget it. When you see it in black and white, you realize how much goes to unnecessary wants disguised as needs. The Babylonian wisdom says, what each of us calls our necessary expenses will always grow to equal our incomes unless we protest to the contrary. Isn't that true? Every time your income rises, necessities magically expand. But if you learn to say no, if you live on less than you earn, you open the door to wealth. So here's the challenge. Don't let culture trick you into living for show. Don't chase what drains you. Instead, decide what truly matters. Cut the waste and live below your means. Not forever in scarcity, but to create space for abundance. Because when you control your spending, you're no longer a slave to impulse. You're the master of your future. Once you've learned to pay yourself first and live below your means, the next step from the richest man in Babylon is what really separates the poor from the wealthy. Make your money multiply. The ancient saying is, make thy gold multiply. Now here's where most people stop. They save some money, maybe even live modestly, but then they let their money just sit. It doesn't grow, it doesn't multiply, it just loses value slowly to time and inflation. The Babylonians were very clear. Money should not sleep. Money should be like a worker. If you treat every coin as a little servant and you put them to work, they will bring back more coins, which in turn can go out and bring back even more. That's how wealth builds, not just by saving, but by investing. In the book, there's a story about Arcad, the richest man in Babylon. When he was still young and learning, he had saved up some gold. Wanting to grow it, he gave it to a brickmaker who promised to buy jewels from faraway lands and sell them at a profit. Arcad thought this was a brilliant idea, until the brickmaker came back with worthless glass instead of precious stones. He had lost everything. The lesson was painful, but unforgettable. If you want your money to multiply, you must put it into wise hands. Invest only where there is safety and knowledge, not blind hope. This same story echoes loudly today. How many people take their savings and throw them into get-rich-quick schemes, shiny promises, or unverified businesses, only to lose everything? The principle never changes. You must not just make your gold work, but make it work wisely. If you want your money to multiply, put it into proven ventures, skills, or assets where your knowledge and God's wisdom guide you, not greed. Think of it this way. Saving money is like planting seeds in a bag. They stay seeds forever. But when you plant them in good soil, water them, and give them sunlight, they multiply. They grow into trees, which bear fruit, which hold more seeds. That's multiplication. Money is the same. It multiplies when invested properly. Even the Bible points us in this direction. In the parable of the talents, Matthew 25:14-30, the master gives one servant 5 talents, another 2, and another 1. The first 2 doubled their money, while the last buried his in the ground out of fear. The master praised the multipliers and called the fearful one wicked and lazy. That's exactly what the Babylonians understood. Money is a tool given by God, and if you bury it, you waste it. If you multiply it, you steward it. Here's something practical. You don't need a fortune to start multiplying. Even small amounts invested consistently grow over time. That's the power of compounding. If you put aside a little each month and put it into something that generates returns, whether it's a business, a skill that earns you more income, or an investment, over years, it grows beyond what you can imagine. Take the widow's oil story we mentioned earlier. She had just a little, but once she poured it out, it multiplied. The principle is the same. When you recognize what you already have and put it to work, God blesses the multiplication. Now let me get personal. I used to think the answer to my financial struggles was earning more. But I realized the deeper truth. It wasn't just about what I earned, but about what my money did after I earned it. When I let money slip away through expenses, nothing changed. But when I started investing in learning, in business opportunities, and in assets, I saw the slow but powerful effect of multiplication. It wasn't overnight, but it was consistent, and consistency always beats shortcuts. The modern version of Babylon's wisdom is this. Don't just save, invest. Don't just hold money, make it move. That could mean acquiring skills that pay you back forever, building a business that keeps producing, or putting money into safe, growth-oriented investments. And remember Arcad's mistake. Be careful who you trust with your money. Don't chase shiny promises. Wisdom and patience are the soil where your gold multiplies. So here's the challenge. Don't let your money sleep. Don't bury it in fear. Put it to work, let it multiply, and watch as the little seeds grow into a forest. That's how wealth was built in Babylon, and that's how it's still built today. Once you've started multiplying your money, there's a new danger you must face. Because what's the point of planting seeds, watching them sprout, only to let someone trample the field? This brings us to the fourth principle from The Richest Man in Babylon: protect your wealth from loss. The book warns clearly, guard thy treasures from loss. Arcad explains that it's not enough to earn, save, and even invest. You must also defend your wealth against bad decisions, scams, and risks that can wipe away years of progress in a moment. There's a story in the book where Arcad explains how inexperienced men full of excitement often rush into investments they don't understand. He says, if you let your gold slip into ventures you know nothing about, you invite loss. If you entrust it to people with no track record, you risk seeing it vanish. Wisdom is the shield of wealth. Let's be real. How many times have we seen this today? A friend tells you about a hot new scheme, a business guaranteed to double your money, or some fast-moving trend. And people, driven by greed and impatience, throw in their savings. A few months later, the money is gone, and they're left bitter and broke. The principle never changes. Protect your gold. Don't risk it blindly. It reminds me of Proverbs 21:20. The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Wisdom builds and protects, while foolishness wastes and destroys. Protection is part of stewardship. God gives resources, but he also expects us to handle them with care. Think about insurance in modern times. The Babylonians didn't have the same systems we do, but their mindset was the same: safeguard your wealth. In the book, there's a lesson that says when you lend money, be sure the borrower can repay. And better yet, secure it with collateral. That principle still applies. Don't invest without research. Don't lend without assurance. Don't step into waters too deep for your knowledge. Let's bring this home. Maybe you've seen stories of people who worked hard, saved diligently, and then lost everything in one reckless move. It could be gambling. It could be trusting the wrong person. Or it could simply be chasing quick returns. That's what the Babylonians warned against. The moment you have gold, the vultures appear, and unless you guard it, you'll see it fly away. On the flip side, those who learn to protect their wealth live with peace. They still invest, but carefully. They don't put all their money in one basket. They diversify, they research, they seek wisdom, and they never risk what they cannot afford to lose. Personally, I had to learn this lesson the hard way. Early on, when I first began saving and earning, I wanted fast results. I thought one good deal could catapult me ahead. Instead, I lost money by trusting the wrong ventures. That pain taught me the Babylonian wisdom. Slow and steady beats risky shortcuts. Protection is as important as multiplication. Remember, it's not just about getting rich. It's about staying rich. And the way you do that is by guarding your wealth with the same passion you used to earn it. Arcad himself said, "Gold flees the man who would force it to impossible earnings, or who followeth the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers, or who trusts it to his own inexperience." So here's the principle. Don't gamble with your gold. Don't put it in unproven hands. Don't rush into things you don't understand. Protect your wealth, because what you protect today becomes the foundation for tomorrow. The fifth principle in The Richest Man in Babylon is one of my favorites because it hits deeper than gold and coins. It's this: increase your ability to earn. The phrase they used is, increase thy ability to earn. Think about this for a moment. The richest man in Babylon didn't stay rich simply because he saved money or guarded it carefully. He stayed ahead because he kept improving himself. He knew that the greatest treasure you'll ever have isn't in your purse, it's in your mind, your skills, and your discipline. That's the real wealth. Because even if you lose all your gold, if you've developed yourself, you can always earn again. Arcad explained to his students that wealth is like a tree. If you want it to grow, you don't just protect the fruit, you nurture the soil. And the soil is you. You are the source. If you increase your wisdom, your patience, your ability to solve problems, then the opportunities to earn will never leave you. In today's language, this means you don't wait for luck. You invest in yourself. You read, you study, you seek mentors, you gain new skills that make you valuable in any season. Look at the world right now. Technology changes, industries shift, economies collapse. But those who keep learning, adapting, and sharpening themselves never stay broke for long. They rise again and again because their wealth isn't just what's in their wallet, it's in who they've become. It reminds me of Ecclesiastes 7:12. Wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. Money can protect you for a while, but wisdom multiplies and sustains life. In the long run, knowledge outlasts cash. Let's pause and think. What skills do you have right now that can create value for others? What new knowledge could make you more valuable tomorrow than you are today? Sometimes people stay in survival mode because they stop growing. They expect money to appear without planting seeds of wisdom. But the Babylonians knew the truth. You increase wealth by increasing yourself. And this is where discipline comes in. It's not just about collecting random knowledge. It's about consistent mastery. Maybe you're in a trade, maybe you're in business, maybe you're learning online skills. The key is to sharpen it daily, because mastery creates demand, and demand creates wealth. Let me tell you something personal. When I was in a season of lack, what turned things around wasn't some sudden miracle of money dropping from the sky. It was me deciding to grow. I listened to mentors, I read books, I learned from failures. People like Myron Golden would say, "Your income rarely exceeds your level of personal development." That hit me. I realized if I wanted to earn more, I had to become more. And so I invested in myself, even when it felt costly. And those investments paid back far more than any quick deal ever could. So here's the secret. When you increase your ability to earn, you're not just chasing money. You're chasing mastery, wisdom, and adaptability. And those things make you unstoppable, no matter how hard times get. Now let's step back and look at the full picture. The Babylonians gave us 5 timeless principles that can change your financial destiny, even in the hardest situations. 1. Pay yourself first. Save at least 10% before anything else. 2. Live below your means. Don't let desires consume your income. 3. Make your money multiply. Invest so your gold works for you. 4. Protect your wealth from loss. Guard against reckless risks. 5. Increase your ability to earn. Grow yourself, and wealth will follow. These aren't just money tricks, they are life principles. They are about discipline, wisdom, and vision. If you apply them, you'll see transformation, not overnight, but over time. Remember, wealth is not built in a day, it's built daily. And here's the closing thought I want you to carry. Money comes and goes. Economies rise and fall. But when you plant these principles into your life, you create something no crisis can steal. You become the kind of person who doesn't just chase wealth, you attract it. Like Proverbs 13:11 says, "Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it." The Babylonian lessons are exactly that. Step by step, little by little, you create abundance that lasts. So my challenge for you is this. Don't just listen and nod. Start today. Take one principle and practice it this week. Maybe it's saving your first 10%. Maybe it's cutting unnecessary expenses. Maybe it's reading one new book that expands your wisdom. Whatever it is, start. Because wealth doesn't wait for tomorrow. It grows from the seeds you plant today. And remember this. The richest man in Babylon wasn't lucky. He was disciplined. And you can be too.